You know, if you ask almost anyone who invented the steam engine, you're gonna get one name, James Watt, right? It's that classic story we all got in school. This lone genius has a eureka moment, and just like that, bam, the Industrial Revolution kicks off. But what if I told you that simple story? Well, it's not the whole story.
Yeah, let's really dig into this. Because the real answer, it is so much more complicated and honestly, way more fascinating than that simple story we all memorized.
So, here he is, the man himself, James Watt, this Scottish engineer whose name is basically shorthand for steam power for the entire industrial age. And look, there is absolutely no doubt he was a crucial player, a true giant who literally reshaped the world. But, and this is a big but, he wasn't the start of the story, not even close.
Think of him more like the person who found the final, crucial key that unlocked the engine's true power. Because the real story here isn't about one person. It's about a long, winding chain of invention, one that stretches back centuries.
So to really get what made Watt so brilliant, we've got to travel back in time, way back. See, he wasn't just working in some empty workshop by himself. He was, as they say, standing on the shoulders of giants, people who had been trying to tame the power of steam for a very, very long time. And just look at this timeline. It really puts it into perspective, right? We're not talking about a few decades or even a century. We're talking almost 2,000 years. The idea of using steam to do work, it isn't some modern concept, it's ancient.
Okay, so our story kicks off way back in the 1st century with a guy named Hero of Alexandria. He built this thing, the ALE pile, which is basically, well, it was a cool toy. You'd heat water inside, steam would shoot out of these little jets, and the whole sphere would start spinning. It had no practical purpose, but it proved a fundamental idea. Steam can make things move. All right, now let's hit the fast forward button by about 1,500 years. We land in 1606, where a Spanish guy, Geronimo de Ayans, becomes the first person to actually use a steam machine for a real job. A dirty, dangerous job, pumping nasty gas and water out of mines. A little later, over in England, Thomas Savery patents a similar kind of pump. It was a bit limited, only worked in shallow mines, but still, the age of practical steam power had officially begun.
But the real game changer, the direct ancestor to Watt's engine, was this beast right here. The Newcomen atmospheric engine, invented in 1712. And for more than 50 years, this thing was the absolute king, the undisputed workhorse of the mining world. It was big, it was powerful, and it got the job done. It was everywhere. There was just one huge, critical problem with it.
And this is where James Watt enters the picture. Because you can't really appreciate his genius until you understand the very specific problem he was trying to fix. See, his goal wasn't to invent a steam engine from scratch. It was to take the one they already had and make it better. A lot better.
So here's how the Newcomen engine worked, in a nutshell. You'd let steam fill up this huge cylinder. Then, you'd cool that steam down really fast so it turned back into a little bit of water. This created a vacuum. And then, this is the clever part, the pressure of the air outside the engine would slam the piston down into that empty space. That was your power.
But here's the fatal flaw. See that process? You have to make the cylinder super hot with steam and then immediately make it cold with a spray of water. Hot, cold, over and over. It's like trying to bake cookies but having to cool your oven down to freezing between every single batch. It wasted a staggering amount of energy and coal. It was just unbelievably inefficient.
So in 1764, James Watt, who was working as an instrument maker, gets this little model of a Newcomen engine to fix. And he just gets completely obsessed with how wasteful it is. It drove him crazy. Then, one Sunday in 1765, he decides to go for a walk.
And this is it, the classic eureka moment. In his own words, while just taking a stroll, the entire solution just appeared in his mind. It all clicked. And right there, in that one flash of insight, you could argue the foundation for the modern world was laid. His idea was so simple, it was brilliant. He thought, why are we cooling the main cylinder at all? Let's just not. His solution was to add a second, separate chamber, a condenser. You keep the main cylinder hot all the time, and you keep the separate condenser cold all the time. The steam does its work, then gets sucked into the cold chamber to condense. No more wasting all that energy reheating the cylinder stroke after stroke after stroke.
And the result? I mean, get this. His engine used about 75% less fuel to do the exact same amount of work. This wasn't just a little tweak, this was a revolution. Suddenly steam power wasn't just possible, it was cheap, it was efficient, it was a viable power source for just about everything.
But here's the thing. A brilliant idea on paper is one thing. Turning it into a technology that actually changes the world, that's a whole different ballgame. And for that, Watt needed a partner.
And he found that partner in Matthew Boulton, a sharp, savvy entrepreneur. Boulton was the business side of the equation. He had the money, the factory, and the know-how to take Watt's designs and actually build and sell them. Together, their firm, Boulton and Watt, became an absolute powerhouse of the Industrial Revolution.
And get this, Watt wasn't done. He didn't just stop with a separate condenser. He and his team kept innovating. They came up with a gear system to create spinning, rotary motion, which is what you need for factories. They invented a double-acting engine that pushed and pulled, basically doubling the power. They even created this clever device called a governor that automatically kept the engine running at a steady speed. Each one of these breakthroughs took the steam engine from being just a big pump to being a universal power source that could run practically anything.
So really, when you look around today, at our cities, our factories, the way we travel around the globe, you're looking at a world that was in so many fundamental ways built on the back of Watt's improved engine.
Okay, so let's circle all the way back to that first question. Did James Watt invent the steam engine? The simple answer is no. A whole line of inventors paved the way. But his genius, his true contribution, was seeing the one critical flaw in what already existed and fixing it with an idea that was just pure brilliance. He didn't invent the steam engine, he perfected it.
And that, ultimately, was the most profound change of all. Before Watt, if you wanted to build a factory, you had to be near a powerful river. That was your only option for power. Industry was literally chained to the riverbanks. Watt's efficient engine broke those chains. It unleashed industry from geography. For the first time in history, you could build a factory pretty much anywhere you could haul coal. And that's what truly ignited the Industrial Revolution.
You know, the world that Watt's engine built ran on the incredible power of fossil fuels. Now, 250 years later, we're dealing with the long-term consequences of that choice. And we're facing the exact same kind of challenge, finding a new way to power our world. His story is just an amazing reminder that sometimes it's not about inventing something from nothing. It's about that one brilliant improvement that changes everything. It makes you wonder, what's next?